it is important to know that the enemy knows the scriptures and can try to use them against us. It's just what I call people when I don't want to be too insulting. Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible. If you like the idea of a casual yet meaningful chat about the Bible with a couple of mates, listen in, this could be good for you.
Today's day 182, covering Psalms 90, 91, 92, 93, 94 and 95. If you need a brief overview, they're in the description. Cool.
On you, bruh.
All right, danke schön. So 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Psalms 90 verse 4. Just a great illustration of God's timing, right? Like 1,000 years to him are like a day to us. He's outside of time, so he has a different view of it.
Yeah.
And so we can't fully wrap our minds around God's timing, obviously, but we have to understand that we can't understand. And I think that will help with how long it takes for prayers to be answered sometimes, or how long we're in a certain season and things like that.
Yeah, that's very true, man. That is very true. It's the one thing that I picked out from the whole Psalm 90 was it was a Psalm of Moses, and it feels quite different to a lot of the other Psalms in reading through it. And I'm like, there's just so much of this which actually you just need to take in context, because this is written by Moses, who lived a very different life to David. Almost, some would say, in a sort of an opposite life, really. Just thinking about it off the top of my head now, where Moses was born into royalty and then ended up leaving and becoming a wanderer, a nomad, or whatever. David had the opposite sort of life. So the context from him writing that to some of David's Psalms and other people, they just, you have to realize you have to take them all kind of as they're written as well, contextually.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. That's really interesting to think about. And just thinking about the fact it's Moses's life, he obviously lived a very long life, and patience was like a huge thing that he had to learn and develop, and so did the Israelites in Exodus, right? Yeah. And so again, the idea of the timing thing links more probably to Moses. That's cool.
Kind of interesting, actually. You mentioned he lived a long life, but in Psalm 90 verse 10, it says our days may come to 70 years or 80 if our strength endures. But he lived a banging old life, didn't he? His strength definitely endures. So yeah, it was an interesting little take.
100%. Yeah, love that. I have nothing for 91, so I'm going to ask you to spread your wisdom and pay grade.
Let's not call it wisdom, but I'll chat. So Psalm 91:11, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so you will not strike your foot against a stone. Now, if that sounds familiar, that's because that was the verse that Satan quoted to Jesus when he was being tested in the wilderness.
Wow.
He took him up to a high place and said, throw yourself, because it says in the scriptures, your foot will not be cast against a stone. And I realized, it's like, oh, interesting. It's kind of cool just to get that where it's from. Several points sort of came out to me with this. One, it is important to know that the enemy knows the scriptures and can try to use them against us. And often we can do that as well. And it's something which I'm trying to be fairly aware of while going through some of these, particularly the Psalms, really, because you can take such little segments of Psalms and such little segments of the whole Bible, really, and you can explain them in a way that really suits your own point that you're trying to get across. And I think that has been done so frequently, a lot of the time by Christians, but also by non-Christians, trying to take little sections of the Bible out of context and use them as a weapon against other people. And it's just, we have to be so careful with the way we're doing that. Like, we need to, well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's good. That's seriously good, man, because you're right. And we all have a danger of doing that all the time. And that's how you get false doctrine, like prosperity gospel and stuff like that, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Preachers and teachers manipulating the Bible in a way that the Bible don't bend that way, and yet they try and make it bend that way. Yeah, that's really cool, man. Psalm 92, I just had one thing, verse 5. How great are your works, Lord? How profound are your thoughts? And it's obviously so true. If you think about just the beauty of creation, just the beauty of nature, the way that, you know, you've talked about David Attenborough quite a couple times on the channel, which I love as well. Just the complexity of the way that everything works together in harmony. And physicists talk about like fine tuning, like the earth to even exist and to be able to harbor life is fine-tuned to like a trillionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a chance of being able to do it. Like if one tiny variable was even out by the tiniest little millimeter, then it wouldn't work this way. So I just love that, just how profound are your thoughts. We don't even understand how profound, especially me and you, a couple of idiots. We have no idea what God's thoughts.
A couple of cowboys we are. I like calling people cowboys. I'm like, such a cowboy. Every now and again, Archie's like, was he a cowboy? It's like, nah, it's just what I call people when I don't want to be too insulting. Love the fact that you picked out 92 verse 5, because I picked out 4 and 6. 4, I sing for joy at the work your hands have done. And then kind of similar to your point really on it, but then also in 6, senseless people do not know, fools do not understand. And it's just like, oh man, just open your eyes for a second. Like, part of my point with the verse 4 was like, I sing for work at the joy for the work your hands have done, referring to what we chatted about the other day about keeping a prayer journal. But it's so easy just to gloss over everything that God's done for us.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, really is. It really is. I think you got one more in 92, then we got 93.
I do, yeah. It was 92:14, kind of one of those random little quotes. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. And it was just effectively the whole God's not done with you yet thing. If you're still breathing, God's still got a plan for you. It reminded me of the Sharpen Your Sword series with Nathan Senior when they were doing the street preachers, and these, was it a Navy guy and an Army guy were just going facing off against each other, and a little old lady just came up to them and was like, should we have a sit down? And it's just like her in that innocence and just honesty of a little old lady being able to diffuse these two guys just wanting to absolutely rip each other's faces off. And it was just like, God has a plan for you. If you're still breathing, God has a plan for you.
Amen to that, man. That's all so good. You're just coming out with the hits right now. I would say it also reminds me of, I think I said on the channel, but I might have just said this to you, Ads, about there's like an 87-year-old guy at one of the local churches, and he's just started one psalm a week plan, 150 psalms, obviously.
Many things.
So he won't be done till he's pushing 90.
Yeah.
So it's just fantastic. And apparently the series is really good. I got nothing from 93. Don't know if you wanted to add anything from 93. Otherwise, I got a couple of 94s.
Nah, I'll chat about it later. It was about storms and God being awesome and some big old storms, the breakers.
It wasn't bold, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But 94 verse 12, blessed is the one you discipline, Lord, the one you teach from your law. That reminds me of the book of James, where James obviously talks about how suffering is a blessing. And it also links back to something we were talking about a week ago, with God refining us like silver. Mm-hmm. So sometimes that discipline and that intensity is necessary to conform us to Christ. And then he will repay them for their sins and destroy them from their wickedness. The Lord our God will destroy them. Psalm 94 verse 23. Although we don't, in some ways, Christians, people don't want to wish hell or wish that hell was real, right? But that just reminds us that it has to be real for God to be just. You have to have a hell, unfortunately, because some people just won't learn. They won't take the free gift of grace. Yeah. And they got to be punished for their crimes.
It gets to be.
It gets to go.
That's true, bro. I like that. Psalm 94, 18, sorry. My foot is slipping. Your unfailing love, Lord, supported me. This kind of goes back to, again, what you'd said several weeks ago, I guess now, about sort of like slipping and how that can be lost in a big way. But actually, I love the fact that it was my foot is slipping, current tense, and Lord has supported me. And the idea was like, run to God while you're in that process of slipping, and he can support you rather than waiting till you've slipped and then going to him. Like, we often feel like we're in a circle and a cycle of sin, so we want to avoid God. And we've kind of chatted this about before with like running to your father and a father's love. But actually, we need to be running to God in those times before it's too late. So yeah,
100%, 100%.
You've done your points, dude. I've got a couple more, but we've hardly got any time. So 95, 7 and 8. Today, hear his voice. Do not harden your heart as you did. People just don't want to hear the good news sometimes, and they just sort of shut it off. We have to find a way to be able to share it, because 92:6, senseless people do not know, fools do not understand. We have to be able to explain it to people in a way that they can kind of get their head around it without it being shoved down their throat. So basically,
100%.
Tomorrow's readings are going to be Psalm 96 to 102. Get reading.
In the meantime, please consider joining us on social media at 2 Brits and a Bible, and sharing this with someone to help spread the word of God.